Welcome back, my dear learners. We are now on our Module 2, Lesson 2, with your friendly teacher here, Teacher AJ. And we will be talking more about advanced organizers. This time, it's all about timeline. Are you ready? You are set to explore another lesson on textual aids. You will find out more as you continue this learning journey. So, after going through this lesson, you will be expected to first determine the effects of textual aids like timeline in understanding a text. Second, illustrate concepts and ideas from a text using textual aids. And lastly, appreciate the importance of textual aids in understanding a text. Now we are set. Let's proceed. In the previous lesson, you have learned about graphic organizers like Venn diagram for comparison and contrast, and a cause and effect diagram to clearly illustrate cause and effect relationships. Don't you remember our activity number 1, A and B? Wow, that's great! For sure, you are now beginning to appreciate the use of these textual aids in understanding a text. You have learned also the following points: that a Venn diagram helps the reader make a comparison and contrast about two or more things or ideas. And it also illustrates relationships between and among objects that share something in common. While cause and effect diagram, on the other hand, will help you illustrate the relationship on why something happens or visually explains the effect of something. So it answers the question, what and why. Oftentimes, reading long text about history, a long process, or even a story needs time for you to figure out everything you have read. Today, you are going to learn about the use of another graphic organizer which will help you understand what you are reading. Before going to the details of this graphic organizer, because I am very sure you are very excited, read first the given text with me. But before that, let us take note of the following comprehension questions that you will be answering after reading the text. This will help you fill in the data needed to accomplish the flow chart and arrange the process in chronological order. Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. Let us read. Sungka, pronounced sungka, is a game played on solid wooden block with 2 rows of 7 circular holes and 2 large holes at both ends called head. The game begins with 49 game pieces, the shells, marbles, pebbles, or seeds, equally distributed to alternate holes, 7 pieces in every other hole except heads, which remain empty. Sungka requires 2 players. Each player controls the 7 holes on his side of the board and owns the head to his right. The goal is to accumulate as many pieces in your own head. The first player removes all pieces from the hole on the extreme left of his side. He then distributes them anti-clockwise, 1 in each hole to the right of that hole, omitting an opponent's head, but not a player's own head. If the last piece falls into an occupied hole, then all pieces are removed from that hole and are distributed in the same way to the right of that hole in another round. Thus, player's current turn ends when the last piece falls into an empty hole on the opponent's side. If the last piece distributed falls into a player's own head, then the player earns another turn, which can begin at any of the 7 holes on his side. If the last piece distributed falls into an empty hole on his side, then the player captures all the pieces in the hole directly across from this one. On this opponent's side, and put them plus the last piece distributed in his own head. If the opposing hole is empty, no pieces are captured. The other player chooses which hole he wishes to start from, removes the pieces, and distributes them. One in each hole to the right of that chosen hole. If a player has no pieces on his side of the board when it is his turn, then he must pass. The game ends when no pieces are left in any hole on both sides of the board. The player now count the number of pieces in their own head and see who has won. This game with variations is played in other Southeast Asian countries such as Indonesia and Malaysia, where it is known as Kongkak. Our source from http://www.uta.com ASEAN Philippines Sungka HTML. Have you played Sungka? Me too. Now, let us review the comprehension questions you had before reading the text. I believe you can now answer the questions. What is the first step to start the game? What is the second and third step of the game? And lastly, how does the game end? Don't forget your answer! Let's proceed to another activity. You're going to fill in the data needed to complete the graphic organizer. How to play Sungka? First step, second step, third step, and then the final step. You're going to do this on your assessment notebooks. Don't forget what you have read on the text. Congratulations! You have clearly illustrated the steps on how to play Sungka through the help of a graphic organizer, specifically the flowchart. Now, let's get to our lesson. What is a timeline? Based on our activity, a timeline is a type of graphic organizer that shows specific events in sequence, usually with dates in a linear fashion. Timelines are particularly useful for studying or viewing history because the timeline will display major events over a period of time. That's right. Take note that timeline also helps you first put events in chronological order, meaning in order. Second, it shows progress or change. Third, chronological historical events. Now, the following illustrations of a timeline graphic organizer. We have the sequence chart, we have also the flow chart, and we have also the chronological retelling, wherein you're going to write what's first, what's next, and finally. These three are examples of writing a timeline. An example also of a graphic organizer. Don't forget them. Now that you have learned what a timeline graphic organizer is, you'll have more guided practice. Good luck! Before reading the next text, you are to answer the following questions. Take note of this on your assessment notebooks. The history of South Cotabato, Philippines. Centuries ago, the area that would be South Cotabato was sparsely inhabited by Malay pioneers, which later evolved into various ethnic groupings that still exist in the province today. Settlers who would lay the foundation of what would become a progressive province started trooping down in 1914. The significant thrust occurred during the term of the President Quezon in the late 30s. The first wave of settlers that time was led by General Paulino Santos, a man whose undaunted pioneering spirit inspired thousands. After World War II, the final exodus of settlers from Luzon and the Visayas poured into virgin land of promise, and that's Mindanao. In the early 60s, as population, trade and industries grew in this southern part of Cotabato, a clamor for local self-governance arose. Thus, on July 18, 1966, South Cotabato was finally formed as an independent province, raring to push its own development. In 1992, South Cotabato gave birth to a new province. 7 towns in the southern and coastal section of the province now form part of the province of Sarangani. That was a new challenge, and South Cotabateños, with their indomitable pioneering spirit, have proven once more their ability to face and hurdle diverse challenges and ably went through with the demands of times. The new millennium ushers in a new beginning for the province with the coming on of the regional offices in the area in consonance with Executive Order 429 dated October 12, 1990, issued by President Corazon C. Aquino, and Executive Order number 36 dated September 19, 2001. Issued by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, provided for the reorganization of the new administrative region in Mindanao and having the city of Coronadal as the regional center of Region 12. In only 3 decades since its provincehood, South Cotabato has already surpassed dozens of provinces established half a century ahead in almost every aspect of development. In a short span, it becomes one of the leading provinces in Mindanao. What it got to show how today are vivid results of human synergy and the richness of resources. The source, www.southcotabato.gov.ph. Let's go back to the guide questions we had a while ago. Who were the first inhabitants of the province? In what year did the inhabitants begin to troop down in South Cotabato? In what year did the first wave of settlers from Luzon, headed by General Paulino Santos, occupy South Cotabato? Write it down. 4. In what year South Cotabato was formed as independent province? And lastly, in what years did President Corazon Aquino and President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo issue the Executive Order 429 and Executive Order number 36 respectively, which made Coronadal City as the regional center of Region 12? You got it right. Write your answers on your assessment notebooks. Having answered the questions, it's time for you to fill in the timeline organizer below. Look at this organizer. You're going to write the event number 1 to event number 5. Now, based on our lesson, you're going to fill in the blanks with the correct answer to complete the sentence. Choose your answer from the words inside the box. What are those words first? We have story, events, history, progress, sequence, chronological, and timeline. Don't forget those words inside the box. You got it right! Now, you're going to make a timeline of your life story, giving emphasis on the big events of your life. You can use any format that you like. Congratulations! Great job! You are now ready and you learned something from our lesson. Thank you for listening. God bless us all!